Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar today. My name's Arun Mehra, and I'm delighted to have Reza Huda here on this webinar today. Hi, Reza, how are you doing?
Arun, I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on with you here today.
Talking about accountancy, and today's topic is all about becoming free, building a firm that works for you, not one that owns you. So we've got Reza here, is obviously well known in the UK accounting industry, and if you haven't seen his face on LinkedIn or various social medias, you've obviously been living under a rock. Okay, so Reza, give us a little bit of background about your history, what you do, how you've evolved. That'd be really helpful to understand.
Sure, Arun. First of all, thanks for having me. And like yourself, I am a chartered accountant for my sins, so FCA, CTA. I started my journey at PwC, got my CA there, did my CTA there, did about 5.5 years, was a manager, and then had the crazy idea of leaving PwC and buying a small accountancy practice back in 2008 during the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Yeah. People thought I was crazy, but what was even crazier was how I ran that business in the first 5 years. So I made all the mistakes under the sun. First 5 years, didn't really know what I was doing, didn't know what I didn't know. And then I came across, the world of personal development, of business books, of mentors and coaches, and started to invest in myself to become a better business owner, to learn the skills they don't teach you when you do your accountancy training. So nobody teaches you how to price your services, how to win work, how to lead and manage a team. And they are the skills that you needed to grow a business, not really the accountancy and tax skills. And then since then, I've gone on a journey to continuously upskill, transform my practice from working crazy hours, not making any money, to getting to 7 figures and having the practice to run without me. And then went down the route sharing with others, a couple of steps behind in terms of what I'd learned to help them get to where they want to get to a lot faster than it took me. So not having to waste time and money making the mistakes that I did.
Amazing. So it's been a great story. So you bought that practice in 2008, correct? Okay, so we're talking about 13 years or so since then, and now you've got a running practice, over 7 figures, you said, turnover, running a coaching business. So very well done, firstly. Okay, because it's never easy leaving a big firm and then going to set up your own small business or buy a small business. I've been there, done that, and like you, made every damn mistake possible and continue to make mistakes, I'm sure. But if we could look back at your kind of shift from a large or big four firm to going into an accounting or start buying an accounting firm, what was the impetus to do that?
I always wanted to set up a business of some sort. So from a young age, I was the one wheeling and dealing, selling, buying stuff from a corner shop and then selling it to friends at school, and then same thing at uni, doing the thing with mobile phones and laptops when people really didn't know their value. In every coffee and lunch break, I'd sit down with a friend of mine to kind of thrash out what could we do, and actually, in 2007, we were ready to set up a cafe business, a shisha cafe, right?
Okay.
But unfortunately, fortunately rather, the tobacco ban that came in put pay to that. So it was a crazy idea anyway, and I'm glad that we didn't actually pursue it. And then along came this opportunity where it was a chance weekend. I was visiting my in-laws. I was in Birmingham at the time. I was working at Birmingham with PwC. Yep. My in-laws lived on the south coast in Hampshire near Portsmouth, and we were spending a weekend there with them. And my father-in-law ran an accountancy firm and had done since the early 80s, but he got to the point now where he was doing other things. He was running a care home business, and this was just something small that he had continued, and he was having talks with other firms in the area of getting out because he had enough 25 years and wanted to sell out just to make sure that his team of 3 or 4 people were kind of safeguarded. Yep. And we got talking, and one thing led to another. And I said, well, this is a business. Why don't I buy it and kind of accelerate my journey to becoming a business owner? It wasn't what I expected to be doing, but it's a business at the end of the day. And I had to chat to my friend to say, look, can we raise the funds to buy this business between us? And he said, yeah. So we had planned, everything nearly had got the funding in place. And then he backed out last minute.
Okay.
And then I was left on my own. So I said, fine, we got the mortgage sorted before the credit crunch and everything took place, and gave my notice in, and I was due to start just at the end of the tax season on 1st of February, before all the credit crunch stuff happened. But I was all too far gone down the line, and that was the start of the journey in terms of kind of found that business rather than it found me rather than me kind of looking for it. Yeah, and it was a massive change. So you can imagine PwC, nice swanky offices in the middle of Birmingham, lovely atrium, Starbucks in downstairs, everything very modern. And I go into a town called Eastleigh, which is not the most affluent of places. It's kind of it was a converted residential building. I walk in, there's like 3 people there, paper everywhere, and what on earth have I got into? And I had to learn a lot of stuff because small business accounting is very different to what I was doing at PwC. I'm quite pigeonholed. I'm just working on tax advice for big companies, entrepreneurs, etc., corporates, and now here I'm dealing with corner shops and care homes and pharmacies and sole traders and stuff, and I had to learn a lot of different skills. So yeah, it was something that was completely alien to me, and had to go on a journey of kind of starting from scratch. That was 2008. I took over for the first 5-6 years. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was trying anything and everything to win work, to build a practice, and not really getting that far. And it was a chance webinar in 2014 that I attended that really opened my eyes as to what was possible, and somebody who had already gone on the journey of building a profitable practice actually sharing what they had done to get results. And that kind of opened my eyes to a different way of doing things, because the challenge always was, how do I get business? How do I get people? How do I get higher prices? How do I work with clients that I like to actually add value to them? Because I'm used to working with, big corporates, big entrepreneurs at PwC, and now I'm having to deal with, like say, shoebox of receipts and things like that. People who very basic stuff. How do I get those bigger fish? They're not, value clients that I can charge a premium to, really then maximize the value that I could bring to them because of my Big Four experience and the tax knowledge that I had built up. And in that webinar, I learned that firstly, I learned about pricing, because I was charging by the hour, doing timesheets, all that kind of stuff. And I learned there was a better way to get paid for what you do. There was a better way than trading your time for money. And counted value pricing went down the road of actually how do you implement that, and that helped me to kind of transform at least the profitability of the practice immediately. So we're still a generalist firm, and working on my pricing helped me to transform the profits of the practice. Now I've got more profit coming in. I can now invest in people and in software, and then use that as the platform to grow further. And I kept hearing also, when I was, learning from coaches, from mentors, from reading the business books and learning about marketing from some of the best minds on the planet who'd written books about it, who'd done this stuff in practice, that you've got to niche down. You've got to laser focus, because when you try and appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. But I didn't quite know which niche to go down. I knew I had to niche. I just didn't know which one, because I kept hearing niche, laser focus from everywhere. And every book I read, every marketing course I went on, that was the number one thing that everybody spoke about. Because otherwise, you can do every tactic in the world, but if your strategy isn't on point, it's just going to be noise, and you're going to throw good money after bad. So in 2016, I finally managed to pick a niche, and I chose property. I had a look at my client base. I thought, I've got quite a few property clients here. We've done quite a bit of work with them. I'd started my journey in terms of investing in property myself. I thought, I like this niche. I like the people that I'm working with.
Yep.
I will start with that niche. And the idea was, all you need to do is create some content that solves their problem, gives them value in advance. Write an ebook, write some blog posts, say you are the accountant specializing working with property invested. So I did that. I wrote a book, very simple book, just answering common questions that buy-to-let investors had. I put it on Amazon. I started to hand it out to solicitors and other people in my referral network and started to get some good leads, good traction. And that helped to generate some really meaty one-off projects as well, which we earned six-figure fees from, which even my ex-bosses at PwC would have been proud of. And that really was the clincher and affirmed my belief that, if you want to grow your practice, the easiest way to do so is to specialize. Otherwise, if you have nothing to differentiate you with from another accountant, the only thing differentiating you is price. And that's never a good thing because that's going to be a race to the bottom.
Okay, no, great answer.
Well, what happens is when you go kind of inch wide, mile deep, you become, an expert and you can add a lot more value. And people come to you with bigger problems. And if there's bigger problems that you are solving, then you can charge a higher price for what you do because the value to the client is so much higher. So we started to get referrals from other accountants who weren't specialized into property because they started to hear me talk about property stuff. So, incorporations and demergers and, stamp duty stuff and trusts with property and all that kind of stuff started coming to us because suddenly we were the expert. What we were doing hadn't changed. We just changed the way we were perceived in the marketplace. Sure. We just marketed ourselves differently. And that was when the penny dropped that actually, it doesn't matter if you are the best accountant or tax advisor in the land. What matters is your ability to market, because marketing is the skill of getting someone who has a need or problem to know, like, or trust you. Because and that is the art of getting customers. Marketing is the art of getting customers. If you have no customers, you have no business. So you can be the best tax advisor or accountant in the land, but if you don't know how to win business, you have no business. Right. And that's when I kind of just kept going down that route of I need to take all the technical work off my plate and hand that off to accountants who can do that, so I can focus my time and energy on learning marketing and building a marketing system that can generate me inquiries, because that's what's going to help me to grow my business.
Sure. And if I had to kind of have a similar story to you, but in the dental sector, that again, all my time historically has been all about the marketing side of things, okay? Because that is the hardest part of the business, in my view. It's psychology ultimately at the end of the day. How are you going to convince people to come on board to you for you to pay for their services? And like yourself, when we went into a niche, we started off with the compliance work, then we added commercial finance brokerage, then we added a buying group, then we added practice business sales to it. So suddenly you're going, as you said, great phrase you used, inch wide but mile deep. That's so true. The deeper you get in, you start solving bigger problems, and as you said, people will pay you bigger, chunkier fees for that. So very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a good story behind this one, actually. So as I started the property niche, we're getting these big fees, and now, transform the practice. We've got to 7 figures now. I'm now working less than I ever have. And my mentor invites me to do a session for his audience. That goes down really well. He says, look, come on every month and I'll pay you to do it. And that's when my mentoring and coaching journey started, to help other accountants to just share what I had done to get results and give them the frameworks and everything that I'd used to do so. And so then in 2019, then I started that. 2020, my mentor was like, oh, look, it's a competing business now, so let's part ways. So I'm now doing the mentoring coaching thing, really enjoying what I'm doing, because it's, when something like you feel you're working in a zone of genius where work feels like play, I'd found that thing that actually gave me energy. And, I found something within me that I love. I love the teaching aspect. I love the helping the other accountants do what I've done and show them the pathway and distilling all that information and giving it to them in practical, digestible ways to go and implement. So I started teaching them about the niching, what I'd done with the property and how that helped me to grow my business. And in 2021, again, I kept hearing from my audience, and I've got a Facebook group with over 1,500 accountants. And every time someone joins, I ask them that question: what's your number one challenge? And 90% of them are like getting clients, finding clients, growing the business. Like the number one challenge for most accountants is how do we get into business? So I said, well, I've already taught this course once. Rather than just teach you again, what I'm going to do in 2021 is do it with you. Because I heard some objections to say, well, you've already got an existing practice. It's easy for you. You've been going for a long time. So I thought, okay, well, let's do this, right? As a marketing test, what I'm going to do is, rather than just teach you, I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to launch a brand new firm, new name, new audience, new niche, and everything I do, I will share with you in real time, February 2021. And the promise of the course, Power Positioning I ran at the time, was 0 to 100K in 12 months. So if we didn't get there ourselves, it'd be serious egg on my face. So I start this course, February 2021. Capture Accounting is born. Accountants for content creators and influencers. And another objection I heard was that I don't have lots of clients in a particular niche, so I don't know what to niche into. And at that time, we had the grand total of one content creator within our generalist practice that we started with, but we worked with him for 18 months. So we'd figured out the nuances of where does the income come from? How do we account for that? How do we set up a chart of accounts? What are the tax issues? We'd learned it. And the good thing about knowledge is once you've learned it, it stays in your head. So the second, third, fourth client that comes along, you've got the answers at the tip of your tongue. You know how to set the books, you know how to do the tax work and the accounts. You've done it once before. So one client in February 2021, we got to a target within 9 months. So thankfully, no egg on my face, 9 months, we got to that 100K. But that was the start of Capture Accounting, our secondary niche. And now 4 years on, 4 years on, it's already over sort of 500,000. And now it's the fastest growing brand in our practice. And now all our marketing efforts are for Capture, which started out as a marketing test to prove that what I'm teaching works. It has worked, it's worked really well. And now that is just ballooning and flying, and all our resources are going into kind of growing that further. And in my book, The Four Pillars, people is one of those pillars. So there's pricing and positioning, which are the external pillars, and then you've got people and process. And yeah, absolutely, your ability to attract the best talent, retain your high performers, and maximize everyone's potential is key to the success of your practice, no doubt about it. And so again, it all goes down to the business skills, like the marketing and the sales and the pricing. Leadership is one of those skills. One of those skills that I had no clue about. I had to go and learn. One of the first business books I read was a book called Drive by Dan Pink, The Truth About Employee Motivation. And that opened my eyes as to, what really drives employee motivation: autonomy, mastery, purpose. And I started to implement some of, what I was learning in terms of, giving people autonomy over where they work, how they work, what they work on, because that's what really people want, to have that self-determination, independence, rather than be, 9 to 5, presenteeism, timesheets, etc. And starting to implement some of those things and building on my own leadership skills to be able to empower the team, to let them free, to be able to get their satisfaction from working on clients and getting their thank yous from the clients. Again, that is another driver of motivation as well. So actually upskilling myself, empowering the team, knowing how to build that culture that does exactly that in terms of attracting the best people, retaining your high performers, is the key to successfully growing your practice. So if someone is just starting out, maybe a year or two, then what I made the mistake of doing back in the day was to hire juniors or apprentices when we were already really busy. And what that meant was that it didn't actually take more work off my plate or my team's plate. It just added more work to it because you had to go away and train someone and coach them and review their work, which as a small practitioner, we just don't have the capacity and time to do. So going back in time, I would say get someone who is able to actually take work off your plate, who's able to run with a client, someone a bit more experienced. And that's why, the 4 pillars work hand in hand. If you focus on your pricing and positioning, you can get better clients paying you more money. And therefore you've got that bandwidth, the profitability to invest in higher caliber people that actually come in and take the work off you rather than just add more to your plate. So, and then when you're much bigger, when you're at 15, 20 people, then you can start bringing in the apprentices and juniors to train them on your systems, because you've got much more capacity there. Your managers can train the juniors rather than it all falling upon you. But when you're on your own, when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, no one has any time, bandwidth, capacity to train. And therefore, what I would do is hire more experienced people, and utilize stuff that you do, outsourcing, etc., to be able to turn on the tap for stuff like compliance work, because now we have access to a global talent pool that you can access for things like compliance work, which you don't really need much client contact for. Stuff like year-end accounts, stuff like payroll, things like that, you can just get outsourced, so you can focus more on the the internal client delivery and comms. Yeah, I'm not sure for a special sauce. It's just treat them how you would your team members locally. So we are predominantly remote now, even though we have an office. Post pandemic, people were went remote and really never came back. So most of our team don't come to the office anymore, and therefore everyone works remotely, and we've got used to working remotely, and therefore when we have a team call every Monday, everyone's invited. So whether you're in the UK or whether you're in the Philippines or Bangladesh, everyone is dialing into that Zoom call, part of the team, banter on there, talking about what went well at the weekend, all that kind of stuff. So just making them feel part of the team. They're on our Slack as well, so everyone is constant contact with them, the regular weekly meetings with their managers, or even some of the daily meetings initially with the managers they're working for, to build up that rapport, etc. So just treat them part of your team like you would someone based locally.
Okay. I totally agree with you. Totally. So now moving back to your marketing prowess, because that's obviously where your heart is, I can tell. Okay. You've obviously developed your business based around the marketing, that pillar, I guess, that side of things, especially through content. What's worked for you, and perhaps what system or platforms will work for you well, and for your niches, and anything you can share on that for any listeners would be quite helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Could talk on hours on this. So yeah, firstly, for me, it's not, rather than looking at platform, it's about getting the strategy right. And the strategy is basically getting clear on your who. Your who is your target audience, like really laser focusing. So going back to that discussion around the niche, get clear on that. Once you get clear on the who, whether it's dentists, whether it's content creators, whether it's property investors, whether it's construction business owners, whether it's architects, farmers, whoever it is, get clear on that first. Because once you're clear on the who, then the what, where, and how to find your ideal clients becomes so much easier. Sure. At the moment, if you're overwhelmed about what do I do for marketing, do I go on LinkedIn? Do I go on Twitter? Do I go on X? Do I go on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? It blows your mind, because you've got no direction as to where you're heading. Once you get clear, right, okay, dentists, I'm going to focus on dentists. Right. Oh, right. Dentists. Where do dentists hang out? Okay. Right. There are dentist groups hanging, in that I can join. There are Facebook groups of dentists. I can put accountants for dentists on my LinkedIn profile and start to connect with dentists. I can have a one-page website which says accountants for dentists. So when someone lands on my website and they're a dentist, they feel I'm speaking directly to them. And the beauty about that is twofold. One is that you get paid more. Who gets paid more? The brain surgeon or the GP? When you're a specialist, you get paid more. So that is about positioning. When you're positioned as an expert, price follows. So you get more in at the top end. Conversely, on the other hand, internally with your people and processes, they're doing the same work. They are working with the same sort of clients. So you're building up internal efficiencies, because your team members can now handle more clients per team member than if they were working with 57 different industries. Sure. Trying to keep up with superannuation and CIS rules and buy-to-let issues and EU VAT for content creators. This is the reason why most firms are overwhelmed and stretched and underpaid. It's because they're trying to be jack of all trades and master of none. So really, that is the secret sauce. Get clear on the who, because you get paid more. It'll be much more efficient for you to do the work, and that gap will be a nice, lovely, healthy profit at the end of it.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most accountants don't have that problem. I mean, I don't see it as a problem. Sure. I see it more as a.
It's just interesting to hear, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wear different hats, and you're absolutely right, because in marketing, if you confuse, you lose. So I had that dilemma when I first started my coaching business, that I was going on LinkedIn talking about my accounting firm, property stuff. If I then start talking about, pricing and marketing for accountants at the same time, it's going to confuse people. And when you confuse, you lose. So I had to make a call to say, right, okay, my LinkedIn stuff is going to be for accountants. I'm not going to talk about my accounting firm at all, because I know my audience of accountants is hanging out on LinkedIn. And I had to find another way of targeting the clients I wanted for my accounting firm. So that's when I built out the website, the blog content, the ebook, and I started to use organic search to drive traffic for the accounting firm for our property niche. And we did the same thing with capture accounting as well. So we've built systems that enable us to go after the low-hanging fruit when people are searching and become the credible expert in that space on other platforms, which then doesn't affect what I'm doing on LinkedIn. That's focused towards my accountants audience. So yeah, different hats.
Yeah, great stuff, Reza. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely going to shake up things. If not, hasn't, it already has, and it is no different to when the internet came along in early 2000s. It is that big of a change, and if you don't embrace it, then you will be left behind. AI is not going to replace accountants, far from it, but people using AI will replace people who don't. So I constantly tell my team that we are using it. It's about having and with AI, because there are infinite use cases for it, it's not like a software implementation where you can have a champion in your firm and say, right, you're the champion, you go out, learn how it works, and then come and teach everybody else in terms of what to do. This button, when you press this happens. AI is not like that. AI, because there's infinite use cases for it, it's going to be bottom-up adoption. So everyone's going to have to, use it for whatever use case they can, and then share what they are doing so people get ideas to say, oh, I didn't realize you could do it for that, for drafting an email, or for manipulating a spreadsheet, or for doing a chart, or for generating a report, or for doing tax research, or because so many use cases, or for writing LinkedIn posts like I use it for. And so the main thing is to get everybody in the team using it, get them all set up, get everyone to set up a ChatGPT account, Claude account, and start using it daily for stuff. And then share what you're doing. So practically what we have a Slack channel called AI use cases. And my job is, I call myself the CRO of the firm, Chief Reminding Officer. So my slot on a Monday is just to remind people what's important. And I will go on a Monday, I'll say, right, okay, so who's used AI today and what have we used it for? If they haven't put it in the Slack channel, right, oh, that's fantastic. Why don't you put it in the Slack channel? Put it in the Slack channel. So constantly remind them, this is important. Are you using it? Sharing what I'm doing with it. Share, and then other people will share what they're doing, and that kind of comes back to my my thinking about how we get efficiency, which I wrote about in my book. Is efficiency comes from how well you capture and share the intellectual capital, in other words, knowledge, in your team members' heads, past, present, and future. How well you do that will determine how efficient you become. As a famous CEO of HP said, if HP knew what HP knows, we'd be 3 times more profitable.
Sure.
And all that means is capturing and sharing knowledge. So we use a tool called Notion, and in Notion, I call it a knowledge hub. All our process notes are in there. And that is a big thing that I have been encouraging my team over the last few years to be doing, because that's how you become more efficient, capturing and sharing that knowledge between team members.
Amazing. Yeah, I agree with you. And when you've got team dotted around the world, it's not always easy, but having platforms such as Notion and Slack, etc., to support their teams, channels, that type of thing is actually a really, really good idea.
Yeah, I think there are, I mean, I'm always a glass half full person, so I don't see challenges. I just see opportunities. I just see huge opportunities to leverage what we do to get ahead much faster than bigger firms, because bigger firms are like all tankers. It takes them a while to change direction, to get buy-in where you've got multiple partners. So I love the fact that, we are small firms, sole practitioners. If I want to change something now, I can change something today. Members in my community, they're sole practitioners. They want to change something, you can do it now. Yeah. You're agile, you're nimble, you can make change happen right now. So embracing this whole AI stuff will help us to do more with less. So we can leverage the power of AI, particularly when it comes to marketing and onboarding and delivery. There's one thing, if you are not doing at the moment and you're listening to this, just do one thing when it comes to AI, which is get a AI meeting note taker. I use Fathom AI personally, but there's lots of good ones out there. There's Otter, Fireflies.
I use Otter.
Don't use the usual Zoom, Teams one. They're rubbish, right? Get a dedicated one, even if you're not doing anything at the moment, because these things, if you imagine you're capturing every single, this is just doing stuff in the background whilst you are having meetings with prospects and clients, and again, you're building up that knowledge, and then these AI tools are incredibly good at summarizing it. Now you can interrogate it. Your onboarding becomes a lot easier because you can have a meeting with a prospect. You can then, rather than having to type notes out, relay that to a team member, meeting transcript, or summary of notes. Here you go. That sits there. For marketing, it's blown my mind as to what it's doing at the moment. Now, I never thought AI would write as well as me, but now it's writing even better than me. So I used to write all my LinkedIn posts, and now there's some posts that go out that are written by AI, and you won't be able to tell the difference. It is phenomenal because it's taking my voice. I've plugged it with my webinars, my podcast, my book transcript. So now it can generate posts with a simple prompt, and I've got posts without spending time to write. So it is phenomenal what it can do. But AI meeting transcripts, that's your first point, because you can use that for marketing, for client delivery, for onboarding, for a whole host of other things, knowledge sharing, etc. So if you're not doing anything else, just do that for now.
Amazing tips. Thank you. Right, so we've been going, oh God, we're going almost 40 minutes now. I thought it was only going to be half an hour. So, well, I suppose it goes back, let's go back to the original point of the webinar though, the title, it being freedom driven. Okay, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So they are the pricing, process, people, and positioning title of the book. 4 pillars, how to build a firm that gives you more money, time, and freedom. If you want a copy of it, go to my LinkedIn profile. There's a link on my profile where you can get a free copy. But in terms of how, it's just what we talked about at the beginning in terms of investing in myself to become a better business owner so I could do the best for my clients, my team, and ultimately myself and my family. And being able to build a business that can operate without me, that's kind of true freedom. So I can do what I love to do and do. So I still love to grow the practice, but I can just do marketing. I don't have to get involved in client delivery, emails, technical stuff. And that's true freedom. It's not as if I don't work. I love working, but work feels like play when you're working in your zone of genius, when you are able to do the stuff that you want to do and kind of build things and have impact and do stuff because you are in control and you have that freedom to do so. And to be able to have a diary where you're not expected to be in any place, anyone telling you what to do. So my day starts where I have no meetings booked for the first 4 hours of the day. Is time for my deep work. I work out of a coffee shop after dropping my daughter to school, go for my morning walk, work out of a coffee shop, go to the gym, and then come to the office at 1 o'clock where I then do calls like this or coaching calls and things like that. So being able to devise my day like that, that's freedom.
Well, Reza, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you here today on this webinar. You've shared some real insightful tips, obviously to create a firm that's freedom driven, and you kind of epitomize that, I think, really out there. There aren't many firm owners who have done what you've done. A lot of people aspire to do that. And it sounds like those 4 pillars are actually paramount to this. And the one in particular that resonates with me mostly is the marketing or the positioning, that type of thing, because you get that right, the freedom comes automatically. Okay. Yes, you've got to get the people right. These are logistics that have to be done. Of course they do. But and too many accountants focus on the doing rather than the thinking. Okay. And as you said, you spend time early morning each day just doing your strategic thinking and building on that. So I think it's a really, really, really insightful share today. So thank you so much for joining us today. I will be sharing this out there to the wider public over the next few days and stuff. I think a lot of people need to hear this, okay, if they haven't heard this type of story. Your story is very interesting and very inspiring as well. So once again, Reza, thank you for your time today and amazing stuff.
Thank you very much, Arun, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure inviting me on.
You're welcome.